Several institutions are battling to accommodate students. We've seen violent protests at Wits University's Braamfontein campus in the last week, where students have been demanding accommodation and a change in the registration process. Thankfully today, the situation is calm there, with the university responding by lifting the 10,000 rand fee that students need upfront before moving into their accommodation. So what's the situation like at other campuses? Let's check out one of them now, and we'll talk to Professor Gilingwe Mayende, who's the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Operations at the Peninsula University of Technology. That's the CPUT. Prof, good afternoon. Welcome to today. What's been your experience like at the start of this academic year in terms of the students' demands?
Good afternoon, Mr. Moyane, and good afternoon to the viewers at home as well. We have had an experience whereby there's been a larger than usual or normal influx of students at the time when we were going through the process of registration. And this resulted in us having to deal with an additional number of students who need to be assisted with accommodation. But in dealing with this phenomenon of this additional number, we have worked quite well with the SRC. And as we have been doing that, we've been decreasing the numbers gradually and definitively and assuredly. And I must say that at this point in time, we are having to look into a much smaller number of students that we're assisting. But I think it's important for me to point out that at this point in time, our residences are now full to capacity. That is, the residences that are owned by the university as well as those which are leased by the university. And so most of these students whom we are assisting are being channeled through to private accommodation, some of which is accredited with our institution. And I think I must also add that there is a significant number amongst these students who do not qualify to be in our institution because of perhaps having not met the requisite academic requirements. So those obviously fall outside of the scope of the assistance that we are providing.
Yeah, it seems like you have a particular approach that has made CPUT not to be affected by any protest. You did have this additional number of students, and you said you've been gradually managing them in terms of their registration. And while your residences are now full to capacity, you are redirecting accommodation into the private sector. What's key in your approach, Prof, as an institution to ensuring that you have a smooth start to the academic year?
I think what has been key is the fact that we have adopted an inclusive approach whereby we brought in all the critical stakeholders, principally the SRC. And we actually didn't just bring them into meetings where we would discuss issues, but we would also involve them in some of the exercises where we would, for instance, be conducting screening of some of the students. They have been assisting us quite a great deal in terms of that. So that is possibly the main game changer in this regard.
So you've been involving them not just when there's a problem, but as you were preparing and doing all kinds of work ahead of the academic year, like checking credentials. They've been involved right through, and that has assisted them to understand, I guess, the challenges that you as an institution would face in terms of the funding model.
No, not as such. Most of the work that we've been doing with them has taken place this year. I must say that we do have a new SRC that took office at the beginning of this year. So we've been working with them as from the beginning of this year. That is when we opened our doors to new students in January. But what we have been doing is we have been holding meetings and engagements at various levels, even at the executive management level, where our Vice-Chancellor has been presiding over those engagements, where we've been seeking or looking at finding solutions. And I must say, the SRC has been very helpful in that they've adopted a stance of being proactive and solution-orientated. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful so far.
Yeah. So you said your inclusive approach is what you call a game changer, and also you have a solutions-based approach, including the SRC to the challenges. Just give us a snapshot of are students at CPUT, at your institution, facing similar situations like the students at Wits, for example, where over the last week, then what we've heard, it's about the registration process, the registration fees, the cap, the 45,000 rand cap by NSFAS that goes towards accommodation, and the historic debt.
Well, I wouldn't make that direct comparison. I don't think it would be accurate to do so. But there are challenges in general which are to be found in the sector, in the higher education sector as a whole. But what is key, obviously, is how an institution such as ours would approach the challenges that do emerge.
Yeah, is one of the challenges the fact that some students stay there for longer than they are welcome. They have a 3-year degree they want to do, but they end up doing it over a much longer period. So every year they are part of the system, and that also affects how you deploy your resources and how you accommodate the first years.
Certainly, that is really one of the challenges. We do have that category of students. I think that's something we cannot sort of run away from. It's there. It is a phenomenon that we have to tackle. So we do have those students indeed who really overstay, and as a result, pressures do emerge, which perhaps we would not have had to experience had we not had to deal with that phenomenon.
Okay, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Professor Gilingwe Mayende. He's the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Operations at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology.